The Indian philosophy actually has, Indic philosophy for that matter, has actually a simple set of rules with which you can easily create a quality-based standard to design Indian cities. They're called the Panchabhutas or the Panchatatvas, which is, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's air, space, water, communication, etc., right? And energy and so on. And each of this is a metric. The quality of air in a city, the quality of water in a city, and we have to add a couple of tattvas of our own, which is maybe quality of mobility, the quality of, say, broadband infrastructure, the quality of communication infrastructure, the quality of energy available to the city, and also the automatically this will, if you use these as our guiding principles, I feel that we don't really need to import any philosophies from the rest of the planet.
Namaste everybody. Welcome to Citti Media. My name is Citti, your host. In today's current affairs show, we are joined by architect Naresh V. Narasimhan. He is the managing partner at Venkatraman Associates, a nationally renowned architecture firm. He's the founder of MOD Institute that focuses on urban design issues and is a trustee at the famous Suchitra Cinema and Cultural Academy in Bengaluru. Namaste, sir. How are you?
Hello, Sharan. All good.
Thank you so much for joining us. I know that you've been very busy and you've been traveling since the last few weeks. I hope that you're safe and healthy.
Everything is good.
Right. Now, I'm really excited about this because, first of all, we are talking about Bangalore, or rather, should I say Bengaluru, just to get it correct. Now, one of the biggest projects that you've undertaken, and it has sort of changed the landscape of the city, was the Church Street project, where you overhauled the entire part of that particular street. Now, could you share some insights from us? And how has this sort of set a precedent to other cities as well? And how did the idea actually come up?
See, Church Street is an unusual street in Bangalore. So it is right in the heart of the city. And it had something, and it was something like both a local and a tourist destination for a very long time. And it's an unusual street because it had more than about 50 or 60 bars, restaurants, and other kinds of eateries. And it had other kinds of mixed uses. It had bookshops. It also has a metro station opening onto it. And quite a complex character. The street had a complex character. And it is right parallel to one of the main roads of Bangalore called MG Road. And Church Street was also used as a service road for MG Road, like a service street. It had all the infrastructure of MG Road, the electrical infrastructure, as well as a lot of the plumbing infrastructure and all that was being handled by Church Street. Over time, the street had deteriorated quite badly. And about 4 or 5 years ago, when we started working on this project, we found that though the street gets a footfall of between 60,000 to 100,000 people a day, in terms of both tourist and local population, the street had become woefully inadequate to handle that kind of stress. The infrastructure dated back to British times, and it had completely broken down. It was smelly, and there were a lot of frequent breakdowns of infrastructure, which necessitated continuous repair work and blockages and so on. So when the Corporation of Bangalore, the Brihat Bangalore Mahanagara Palike, PBMP, for short, decided to bring the street, upgrade the street as per what is known in Bangalore as tender sure guidelines. They approached me to see whether I was able to help them. As part of the pro bono efforts of Venkatraman Associates, VA, that is my architectural firm, we decided that we would do this project pro bono for the city,
Right.
the spirit of the public good, and took up this project with a lot of support both from the BBMP as well as from the state government. Tender Sure as a guide, Tender Sure stands is a kind of document created by another civic group, which laid down standards for the design of public roads and public infrastructure under these roads. Most people in India don't understand that roads are only as good as the quality of the surface below them, particularly the drainage and the quality of infrastructure design, which allowed for frequent upgrades and changes. When we saw the street and saw the particular character of the street, that it was not a main road, it was connecting two main streets of the city, that is Brigade Road and St. Mark's Road. And we found that this could be possibly a great candidate for a pedestrian-oriented street. It could not become a fully pedestrian street because there were still about 50 people living on the street in apartments, as well as people who had parking, garages and so on. So we decided that let's try to make this into a pedestrian-oriented street. I mean, the idea is that in India, we're used to roads being laid one day and then the next day the utility providers come and dig it all up. And everybody cannot understand why they don't coordinate with each other. So we set out to prove that you could build a street which you never need to touch for the next 30, 40 years at least, other than regular maintenance.
Right. Very interesting. Now, a lot of people around India and the world know Bengaluru for certain different reasons. But one of the reasons that they know Bengaluru for is also the traffic problems and different infrastructure problems. So in that sense, in your own understanding, now you have been an urban planner for several decades now. Where do you think Bengaluru is headed? What are the problems and what are the solutions?
See, what is actually this COVID has put up huge. Bangalore was going in the right direction. The government and the people were starting to get used to the idea of public transit as the simplest way to move people, create mobility options for people.
Right.
And COVID has unfortunately put a halt on this plan. Bangalore is a strange city in the sense that it has about 1.3 crore people as population. That's close to 13 million people as a population. And it has more than 1 million vehicles on its roads. There is more than 10 million vehicles on its roads. That is almost 1:1 ratio. And this has caused a massive, we have not invested well in public transit options earlier in the city. And to give you some kind of comparison, Bombay has a population of about 2.5 crore people. That's 25 million. And it has less than 4 million vehicles because of the incredible public transit options available. Bombay is still crowded because of the people, but getting around Bombay is much easier than getting around Bangalore, in my opinion.
Right.
Really, what we need to really rethink this story through is that unless we increase the share of public transit, and public transit does not begin with providing expensive metros or costly options. Public transit begins with great footpaths or sidewalks, as it's called in the West. And what I call the number 11 mode of transport, your own 2 little feet. And you should be able to, and also the question of urban design and urban planning comes into play, where almost everything that you need in every day for almost everyone should be within a 10 to 15 minute walk from your place of residence,
Right.
other than your place of work on which you have no control.
Yes.
School should be 10-15 minutes away for children. Your daily marketing should be 10-15 minutes away. Your daily recreation, that is a park and open spaces, should be 10-15 minutes away, etc., etc. Unfortunately, we have followed this American model where people drive everywhere And the whole idea of, and we have, America is different in that it has great footpaths, but nobody uses them. But in India, the footpaths are all broken, and we don't understand that uh, we instead spend a lot of money, go to air-conditioned gyms and walk on treadmills, when actually all the exercise you need every day, you should be able to do just going about your daily jobs. So there has to be a fundamental shift in the way we think about mobility and the way we think about the quality of urban life rather than just the economics of it.
Right. Extremely interesting. Thank you for those points. But former Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa, perhaps a year before he submitted his resignation, announced a plan to revive all Bengaluru's infrastructure, and he said that this could be done within a year in 2022. And he had four objectives for it. Now, the city's infrastructure, which has been developing for the last few years and still hasn't seen that kind of an overhaul that people like you are aiming towards, right? Is that possible in a year? And what is the solution? And what are your comments on the Mission 2022 plan?
So I mean, I think it's a little ambitious to be able to fix Bangalore within a year, but there's a slew of projects announced to make life easier for people. I'm involved in a couple of them, and there was a famous scientist an architect and a technologist and a scientist in America called Richard Wurman, who made this great statement saying, before you fix the city, you must make it observable, right?
Right.
Something, Bangalore as a city, and I'm sure it's common to other cities in India also, has more than about 25 to 30 agencies who sort of, do something about, have something to do with the city on a daily basis or a weekly basis or at least on a policy basis. Unfortunately, all these agencies don't talk to each other.
Right.
The water supply board doesn't talk to the electricity board, doesn't talk to the BBMP, doesn't talk to the fire department, doesn't talk to the police, doesn't talk to the overall planning authority, etc., etc. And this results in a creation of data silos. Right? And with modern data science and with modern artificial intelligence and machine learning, you should be able to put all this data into one silo, into not a silo, into a single, as the software guys say, into a single stack. Right. And to be able to gain insights on how to fix the city. For instance, there is a various estimates by various agencies as to how many kilometers of roads there are in Bangalore. The BBMP thinks there are about 14,000 kilometers. Somebody else thinks there is only 10,000. Somebody else thinks there's only 20,000. So if you're not able to quantify and create a metric for anything, right, and it's not possible to even start creating a solution. So one of my main goals has been, and for this, we have answers. We tend to keep looking to the West for answers. But really speaking, the world is about latitude and it's not about longitude. People at the same latitude across the planet have roughly the same set of issues. Instead, we look at longitude and look at the highly developed economies in Europe and maybe America or something like that, and try to copy that kind of, or even to the east. A common refrain among politicians in India is, we'll make Bangalore like Singapore or make Bangalore like Shanghai or something like that. But we never look at the latitude we are in, which is around the Tropic of Cancer, which is 23.5 to about 10 degrees to about 25 degrees. Roughly, you will find cities across the world in this latitude have roughly the same set of issues. And we should learn from them, from both from a climatological perspective as well as from a social perspective, how to quantify and metric this data so that we are able to have a baseline from which we can create improvements or possible project and create projects out of them. The Indian philosophy actually has, Indic philosophy for that matter, has actually a simple set of rules with which you can easily create a quality-based standard to design Indian cities. They're called the Panchabhutas or the Panchatatvas, which is, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's air, space, water, communication, etc., right? And energy and so on. And each of this is a metric. The quality of air in a city, the quality of water in a city, and we have to add a couple of tattvas of our own, which is maybe quality of mobility, the quality of, say, broadband infrastructure, the quality of communication infrastructure, the quality of energy available to the city, and also the automatically this will, if you use these as our guiding principles, I feel that we don't really need to import any philosophies from the rest of the planet.
Extremely interesting. Thank you so much for those insights. And one eternal question that is not being answered, or rather has different answers from different set of people, is that how do we solve Bengaluru's traffic problems? We seem to have created some sort of a soft power over it, and we have taken that into our stride. So, but actually, what is the solution? Are ring roads a solution? Is metro connectivity a solution, or what is it?
No. Building more roads to solve a traffic problem is like trying to cure obesity by loosening your belt. Right? If you build more roads, more traffic will come. Right? That's all that will happen. And you have to start discouraging the use of private vehicles. The lessons that we have learned from other economies are very clear. Singapore, for instance, has solved its issue by creating a very, very high tax on private vehicles and using state money and the budgets from taxes from that to create high quality public transit infrastructure. The pyramid of India, the traffic pyramid of India has private vehicles at the base, and the pedestrian is given the least priority. We need to invert this triangle and make pedestrianization the most important priority. And in reverse, you should be able to do public transit next, be able to put cycling infrastructure. Bangalore is a great city for the great climate, particularly for cycling. And unfortunately, we just have bits and pieces here and there. We still have a lot of hardy cyclists braving it out in the city. But it's very dangerous to ride in cycles and with heavy traffic all the time trying to this thing. So we have to have a fundamental change in the way we see mobility as a factor. Today, the most important factor in town planning or city planning, it used to be land use, where what drives the city's plan. But today, it's clearly the most important factor is easy mobility. And also the ability to create mixed use zones across the city, so that people forget this concept of, we casually use the word downtown or CBD, Central Business District. Unfortunately, today there is no central business district. This idea is again imported from the US. And it's a fossil fuel era idea whose time has come, right? Whose time has gone, actually, not has come. And we have to learn to create multimodal city centers where people are able to live, work, play within a short radius, and only make long trips when completely required, or when they go to visit the other people and so on. And they should be able to make those long trips by public transit. And the last bit of it is that public transit, the usual problem is that the last mile connectivity, that is first and last mile, the distance from your home to a public transit option, and the distance from the destination from your last stop to your final destination, has to be carefully handled so that it becomes seamless. So all this sounds utopian, and particularly with aspirational needs growing, people want to buy more and more private vehicles, and the use of public transit as a total modal share of transit is actually going down, and it has to be arrested. If you don't do this, what people don't understand is it has dramatic economic advantages for a city, because if the moment you treat mobility as a public health problem and not as just a way of getting from one place to another, pollution levels will come down. Obviously, the diseases coming from pollution will go down. The cost of healthcare comes down. The quality of people, the people are not obese because they're walking everywhere, etc., etc. This has been shown by many economies to be a viable option. it has not percolated to the Indian political and bureaucratic thinking system yet. And I do hope that changes very soon.
Absolutely. I mean, the joy of taking a BMTC bus has, supersedes anything else.
It's not only a BMTC bus, even a taxi is a public transit option, because see, the point is an auto rickshaw is a public transit option, because if the more you are able to use shared mobility as an option, that's what will change the system.
Absolutely. And I don't want to trigger an auto versus bus debate right now. So that's a very sensitive topic. I know that you're short on time and I won't take too much time of yours. Now, if I can ask you one last question, whether it's Bengaluru's, Karnataka's dependence on Bengaluru for its economic progress, we have not been able to create a lot of cities, although the state government and the central government has been intending to, right? Whether it's with the 100 Smart Cities project, why do projects like these fail to take off? Is there a particular reason?
Yeah, I think it's mostly an aspirational issue, and the quality of amenities available in a city like ours, particularly in terms of healthcare options, entertainment options, as well as educational options. They were not able to create these in other cities in Karnataka. Unless there is a huge policy push, Bangalore in Karnataka has at least about 7 or 8 other urban centers which could really become new magnets. And actually, many people, the one thing that has happened post-COVID is that reverse migration has become the norm. A lot of people who went home during the COVID pandemic to the smaller towns and cities of India, as well as in Karnataka also, are not coming back, because they find that they're able to work remotely from elsewhere, and we're able to come up with and the moment that happens, there will be automatically the other issues that I spoke about, whether it's education, whether it's entertainment, automatically they start coming up in other locations. That once the demand is there, the supply will come. And people are starting to understand a simpler life may be a better option than getting stuck in a place and commuting 2 hours to work back and forth every day.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on this. I mean, we never thought about this in that angle, because aspirationally, we always look up to Singapore or say Taiwan or Korea or even the United States. And in fact, we have to look inwards, and we have to sort of look at our own history as to how urbanization can be done in a very sustained manner. So thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you can join us again for such conversations.
Thank you, Sharon. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely pleasure talking to you too. And to all our viewers watching this, please do like, share, and subscribe. We will be coming out with more such shows. Until then, this is your host, Sharan Citti, signing off.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.